Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you. Hope you have a great day today as you begin your day, like I am. It's just a little bit after 4:30 or whatever. And anyway, I appreciate you joining me. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Sitting here reading volume one of a two-volume series by Peter Leithart on Revelation. Boy, he has some really great stuff in here. Now, Mr. Leithart continues to be a futurist, but I want to tell you, this is a classic example of a man who writes a commentary, and if he followed through with his own logic, and if he followed through with his own statements, he would be a full preterist. It's that simple, and it's that unavoidable. Well, that aside, he has some absolutely fantastic things to say on what I want to share with you, share with you this morning. We are looking at the 70 weeks of Daniel chapter 9. I am explaining my view of a 40-year interim period of time between Pentecost and AD 70. I see the first 3 weeks, that is Jesus' ministry, as the first 3 weeks of the 70th week of Daniel. I see the 3.5-year war of 66, 67 AD until 70 AD as the last 3 years of the 70th week of Daniel chapter 9. And so I'm often asked, well, how do you explain that gap? It's a 40-year gap. Well, please go back and look at some of the videos that I've been offering with you so far. It is all based upon the Jewish festal calendar. In the Jewish feast days, festal calendar, you had the first 4 feast days: Passover, unleavened bread, Feast of Weeks, Pentecost. There's some interchange. But you have first four weeks, then you had a 4-month period of time of waiting. It was called the time of waiting for the judgment. The last 3 feast days are Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and Sukkot, the Feast of Harvest, the Feast of Ingathering, Feast of Booths, if you please. Now, there was in the Jewish festal calendar an interim of 4 months. That's a symbolic period of time, just as the feast days themselves are symbolic and typological. All right? Now, I am focused at the present time on demonstrating that Daniel chapter 9 said, 70 weeks are determined on your people and on your city, and we're focused on the statement, to make the atonement. My contention is that the making of the atonement, while it was initiated by the cross, to be sure, no controversy there, it was not consummated until the coming of Christ, the appearing of Christ the second time, to bring salvation. His death on the cross, the shedding of his blood, was to purchase redemption. It was to purchase salvation. But that salvation and that redemption was not fully applied, fully obtained, fully consummated until his appearing the second time. This is the typology of the Day of Atonement, on which the high priest killed the sacrifice, went into the most holy place, came out again. And as I've shared with you, Leviticus chapter 9, 22 and 23 shows that there was absolutely no blessing of any sacrifice until the high priest came out of the most holy place. None. And so for those who claim that the atonement was finished at the cross, or at the most 34, 35 AD, that is a violation of the typology. It is a violation of the chronology. And it rips the atonement out of the sequence of the last 3 feast days, because you first of all had Yom Kippur, then, Rosh Hashanah, then Yom Kippur, and then Rosh Hashanah. Now, I indicated to you yesterday that the book of Revelation shows to us the absolute wonderful fulfillment of Yom Kippur. In order to set the stage here, we need to go back to Hebrews chapter 9. Hebrews chapter 9 focuses in on a discussion of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. And it reminds us of how the high priest on that day offered the sacrifice. He went into the most holy place one time a year, not without blood, there to make atonement for the people. And then he came back out. And the writer draws the point that Jesus appeared once at the end of the age to put away sin. By the way, that's Daniel chapter 9, verse 24. That's verse 26. Verse 24, he entered into the most holy place. That's the high priest going into the most holy place. Verse 28, to those who eagerly look for him, and the Greek word that is used there is very strong, an indication of eager expectation. To those who eagerly look for him, he shall appear a second time apart from sin for salvation. What would Jesus come for? To bring salvation, the salvation purchased through his blood. And now watch this. The writer shares with us in Hebrews 9, 6 and following, that no man could enter the most holy place while that old covenant system stood valid. It would be imposed, Greek word there means imposed, valid, binding, until the time of Reformation. Oh, what's the time of Reformation? It's the time when man could enter the most holy place. It's the time when salvation would be brought. When would salvation be brought? At the coming of the Lord. That means the atonement would not be completed. Salvation would not come. Forgiveness would not come until the coming of the Lord. Now watch how this agrees perfectly with the book of Revelation. In Revelation chapter 11, in one vision, John sees the judgment of the city. Watch this. The judgment of the city, quote, where the Lord was crucified. And gives a paean of victory. But there is a bit of a retrogression, if you want to call it that. And the writer says that he saw the temple. The temple was opened. And the ark of the testimony was seen therein. And there were thunderings, there were lightnings, and there were earthquakes. This is Revelation 11:19. The ark of the covenant seen in the temple in heaven. The veil is gone. Now, I've had people say to me, well, you see, the temple was torn at the Jerusalem temple. In the Gospels, that means that access into the most holy place was now open. Man could enter the most holy place. Well, that's not totally accurate. While Revelation depicts seeing, John saw the Ark of the Testimony in the temple, and the Greek word for temple there is naos, most holy place. Okay? Revelation chapter 15 reiterates the scene to a great deal. The book of Revelation is recapitulatory. It gives you the same scene over and over and over again. Anyway, the temple was filled with smoke. That's the Greek word naos. From the glory of God, from his power. Wait a minute. No man was able to enter. Enter where? Naos, the most holy place, until the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were fulfilled. Wait a minute. Chapter 11:19, the temple opened, the ark of the testimony is seen. Revelation 15:8, the veil is gone, the ark of the testimony is seen, but no man can enter there until the wrath of God is completed. Hebrews 9, no entrance until the coming of the Lord, the time of Reformation. Back to Revelation. In Revelation 15 and 16, remember now, no man could enter until the wrath of God was complete. There are 7 vials, 7 bowls if you please, holding the wrath of God. The 7th bowl was poured out on the city called Babylon, the city where the Lord was crucified. Okay? No entrance into the most holy place until the wrath of God was completed. Wrath of God completed in the judgment of Babylon. Babylon is where the Lord was crucified. Therefore, no entrance into the most holy place until the judgment of Jerusalem. The judgment of Jerusalem, the judgment of Babylon, Revelation 18 and 19, is at the coming of the Lord. Now wait a minute. Hebrews chapter 9, no entrance into the most holy place until the coming of the Lord, the time of the Reformation. That's the time of salvation. Revelation, no entrance into the most holy place until the judgment of Jerusalem, which is at the coming of the Lord, and the time of salvation. Revelation 19, 1 and 2. Do you see the harmony? Do you see the beauty? Do you see the unity? Now, since entrance into the most holy place is the time of salvation, in other words, it's when atonement is completed, and entrance into the most holy place is at the coming of the Lord to bring salvation at the judgment of Jerusalem. That means the atonement was not completed until AD 70. Folks, you can't have the atonement, i.e., you can't have salvation until the coming of the Lord. But the coming of the Lord was in the judgment of Jerusalem. But again, salvation is the time of the finishing, the consummation of the atonement. You don't have completed salvation until the coming of the Lord. You don't have completed atonement and entrance into the most holy place until the coming of the Lord. That means the atonement. Thus, the completion of the 70th week at the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70. And I've got more on that. In the meantime, get a copy of my book, 70 Weeks Are Determined for the Resurrection. Now, I mentioned to you yesterday that I was going to make you a great package deal. My book, Babylon, normally sells for $19.95 plus $4.95 shipping. Okay? $23, $24. 70 Weeks Are Determined normally sells for $17.95. $17.95 plus $19.95 is a little bit over $27. Okay? Plus $4.95 shipping on each one when purchased separately. If you contact me and you order Who Is This Babylon and 70 Weeks Are Determined, I will sell them to you as a package deal until, this is Christmas offer, okay? Until January 1st for $30. That will save you, right at $40. I'm sorry. Well, do the math. Do the math. It will save you $15. Okay. Who Is This Babylon? 70 Weeks Are Determined. Package deal until January the 1st. Christmas offer, $30 post-paid. Take advantage of the offer. Contact me. Send me an email. When you order the two, I'll refund all of your shipping and all of the difference. Your total price will be $30. Okay, we're going to look closer at Revelation chapter 11 and the consummation of the atonement, as well as some of the rest of revelation as it relates to the consummation of the atonement and thus the finishing of the 70 weeks, meaning that there was a 40-year gap, if you want to use that term, between Pentecost and AD 70. So, don't miss it. I'll see you on the flip side.